So my name is Drew, and I have one of my friend's moms here, and her name is Amy Vander. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
It's hard. Yes, it's Dutch. Vander Sluice.
Vandersloot. Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Um, so we got to know each other a little bit already beforehand. So okay, I'm gonna start right off into it. So the first question says, when did you know that you were adopted, and how did it affect you?
Oh, okay. Um, I was adopted by a white family, and I'm Mayan Indian. So I think when I think back, like I guess I've always known that I was different because I didn't look like my siblings. I have
Hmm.
5 brothers and sisters, and I'm right in the middle of that. So I kind of always had that awareness. My parents though were really open about my adoption and what they experienced adopting me and sharing that experience. They would tell me stories growing up, I guess. So I guess it wasn't a secret, and I always knew for obvious reasons. Um, was that all the question? I can't remember the second part. Shoot. Hello? Shoot. Hello?
No,
Hey, I'm here. Did I do something? I don't think so.
no, it was me. My mic kind of cut out for some
Oh
reason.
shoot. So you just start over.
No, it's fine. We can keep going. I think so.
Okay. What part do you not hear all of that, or did you get it all? That's-
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
All
can.
right. Okay, I'm gonna use this microphone. Sorry, I have like two. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, how did it affect you in your personal life?
Just adoption in general.
Yeah, like how did like growing up, like how did it like I guess you could say like face I don't know, I guess trials or something. Like how did that being adopted made you feel around people in your personal life?
Okay. That's a big question. Um, well, uh, I guess there's different kinds of adoptions, right? I mean, there's the racial part of it. Obviously, was a part growing up that made me feel certain ways, and that's one. And having been born in a different country and then adopted into the United States was a little different. I was adopted as an infant though. So
Okay.
I've only really known the culture I was raised in, but didn't look like the culture I was raised in, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there was some, I mean, I think I still feel effects of that today. Um, and so for my particular adoption, being raised by a white family was probably pretty impactful, how I am today. So I guess to be more explicit, when I was younger, we lived in various places. We actually lived in several states, and everywhere we moved, it was predominantly white people. Although I felt comfortable because that was my family, right, in that culture. But a lot of times, as I got older, when I got into maybe middle school, when people were trying to identify and find themselves, that was a little bit harder because I didn't have what they call racial mirror. I didn't have people around me that looked like me. Um, so I would say often I felt like I was white on the inside, but I didn't look like it on the outside. So it just caused a lot of confusion for some reason.
Yeah, for sure.
And also in that I am musically talented and my family was not musical. So some aspects of that, like the connection, like if like I think about my own children today having that musical connection with them because they are very musical. I didn't have that um, type of connection with my parents. So I think that kind of affected our relationship,
Okay.
especially when I was older, getting ready to go off to college. It seemed like I just wasn't connecting with them as much as my siblings would be. I have a brother that's 2 years older and a sister that's 2 years younger. So I kind of could compare, like, wow, they laugh like mom or they get the jokes. Like I just didn't feel so as connected with them because my personality was so different.
Oh, okay.
And
So
my
like kind of like grew up like kind of solo towards the end.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I kind of felt like that all growing up, but I mean, at the same time, when I was a child, my parents gave me a really good childhood. My mom taught preschool. She taught me how to read and spent time with me, and my dad was always really good with us as children. I think I felt more of the effects of being different once I started adolescence. And I think most people have a hard time with adolescence, so it might not be uncommon.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have much in common with my family.
Mhm.
Um, and so I started feeling very disconnected, I think, from them, and our thinking processes were different. My family's really outgoing and dynamic, and um, they joke a lot and stuff. And my personality just isn't like that. Like I get my feelings hurt really easily, and I'm
Oh,
I'm more tender, and so I knew how to take their jokes when they were joking about me, but it actually really hurt my feelings, but I wouldn't communicate that. So that would be one specific example, I think.
okay. Different
So,
personalities.
yeah,
Right.
so personality differences, and I don't think they had any ill intent, and I just wasn't old enough to communicate that that's how they were making me feel. So that kind of carried on to adulthood, I would say too. Um, but I don't. So I would say that adoption is. I was telling my husband this, knowing I was going to speak to you too. That's probably one of the top. Obviously, probably the most thing that impacted my life, how I felt about myself and the choices that I made. Um, just even going to where I went to school or what I studied and how I raised my own children in particular too.
For
So
sure.
yeah. So, and then just comparison wise, it was kind of nice to have kids, biological children, because for the first time, especially my older son and I think a lot alike and have the same thoughts and feeling patterns. So it's just really seamless. Our relationship is much easier than I had experienced with someone before. Um, and we have a lot of things in common, like the musical talent or just being able to communicate our feelings really well. So, yeah, I don't know. I still find lots of discoveries as I get older with being adopted, for sure.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like interesting for me because I came with parents with that obviously I've not been adopted, but it's like really interesting how that connection and like with your family throughout your life is like different, super different because personality collides and just basically like kind of like growing up solo towards the end, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's just cool for me to understand that it's totally different like perspective.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah, it is. And so I do support adoption in that I think I mean, I would much rather a kid be adopted and than sit and, be in foster care kind of thought. But I sometimes question people's reasoning for adopting. Like, what was the real intent behind the adoption? I don't know. And for my generation, I don't want to say necessarily it was a fad, but it was a big thing to adopt kids from foreign countries and bring them to America to give them a better life, which sounds good on the outside, but really I lost a lot of culture. I lost culture that I'll never get back.
mhm,
So that's kind of a negative side effect of adoption that you can't really make up for.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's rough. Okay, so next question. So, what did you imagine your biological parents and or siblings to be like?
Oh, good question. Um, Honestly, and I never really had a desire to meet my biological parents. And I think sometimes people assume that you do have it out of, I mean, curiosity, like, wow, I wonder where I got my musical gifts from because I've noticed other people that's genetic in their families. Maybe like I wonder if I have my mom's hair or eyes, or I mean, maybe thoughts like that, but not really consistently. Um, and I don't know, I can't even really tell you why. So I wouldn't say that I daydreamed all the time about it. I just kind of moved forward. Like this is my life right now, and I just need to move forward. Maybe sometimes I was just kind of surviving the differences that I felt in my family, and looking in the past to me was kind of non-productive. And it's
Okay.
funny, I thought that way as a child, right? Because you think that's an adult thinking process, but so I never really wanted to know about that, but I did. Um, I did know my mother's birth name. So I would say that I consistently think of her on my birthday because I am grateful. You know, that's a huge sacrifice that she had to make. So I feel like out of respect, I really think of her on that particular day because I can't,
Mhm.
now having children myself, I can't imagine giving up children.
Yeah.
So if I had a wonderment, it would be how she actually did that. You know what I mean? How does she go through with that? What a strong lady, right?
Yeah. Seriously.
Um, I think my parents told me, I think they mentioned that I may have siblings, like there was children born after me, but I don't really have proof of that. So I never really thought past that. And not that I mean, if someone reached out to me like, hey, I'm your brother or sister, that would be awesome, you know.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
I put a like I think I'm just more of a person that lives in the present and the future instead of trying to look into the past. Um, and so I just kind of move forward. But now that I'm older and I'm have the means to travel, I mean, I think I'm open to the idea of visiting that country. But it has kind of always freaked me out when I looked up pictures of the Mayan Indians, and I have that striking feature of the profile. I don't know if you've ever seen any
I have
pictures.
not actually.
Yeah, so they have this striking profile that's pretty common in our race, and so I remember as a child seeing that and being completely freaked out and closing the book. So
Oh, that's pretty funny.
I don't know. Maybe you can analyze that for me. What does that mean? I don't know. But I am also on the same time, I'm proud to be, you know, an immigrant. I'm proud of that I'm not white. Like I've learned to really accept that in my gifts and talents. And I wish that I did know more about my culture so I could, you know, the culture that I lost so I could maybe pass that on to my kids a little bit. But
For
and I
sure.
know my oldest son definitely wants me to go visit the country and learn Spanish and all that kind of stuff. So
Wait, is yours
I
son David, right?
yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have my younger son that's 15. He thinks that would be kind of neat too, but I don't know. I just haven't daydreamed much about that other than maybe what traits I got from them, I guess. As physical traits and personality traits because I am so different from my family. I wonder where I got some of these.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wait, so like, I guess, have you ever like tried a DNA test? Maybe, like,
Yeah, actually I did that a couple of years ago. It's been probably 2 years. I did the is it family tree or no, what is it called?
is it like Ancestry.com or something?
Yes, yes, I did Ancestry, and mostly because of I just felt I don't know, I just had a I was kind of on a whim because I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this because I had such fear about it. I think that I just thought, you know, in order to get over a fear, you just have to go for it.
Hmm.
Um, the fear was partly based on that I don't have a father listed on my birth certificate, so I don't really. I mean, I think as a woman and as a mother to not put who the father was on the birth certificate, there's a really good reason for that, you
Yeah.
know. So you know, I think maybe psychologically that kind of messed with me a little bit. That's why I didn't do it for so long. So I did put in for that test, and I didn't find any like direct relatives. I have a lot of like fourth cousins listed, which is like pretty distant
Hmm.
connection. But remember, we're talking about I was born in Guatemala in the 70s. They were going through a big civil war type and genocide basically back then. So people were murdered and thrown into mass graves. So they were trying to get rid of the indigenous people, which are my people. So I just don't. think I don't know what the probability is of ever finding someone that's that close to me. I mean, I was fortunate and was adopted out. So that could be a whole story. I would
Well,
pay someone to figure that story out. I mean, like I want to know kind of the answers, but I don't want to do the work because the emotional work is so intense that I just don't want to do the labor of that. So if somebody else would do the labor, I'd like just deal with the emotions. I
yeah.
think two different parts, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of where I am now. I check it periodically. Um, a lot of those fourth cousins are in the United States, so that's kind of interesting.
That's very cool. Have you like checked like any like anything deeper besides looking for like fourth cousins or like aunts or uncles, like maybe like medical, like maybe like have you ever checked like anything? I guess you could say like hereditary.
Right. No, I had like genetic testing, you mean maybe
Yeah,
for diseases? I don't know. I mean, do they have things like that that are easily accessible? I haven't even looked
um,
into that,
they have
honestly.
like a really rough idea. There's some sites they like you could they will send you a bag. It has like little like a Q-tip and I guess sterile bag inside the bag. So basically,
Mhm.
all you do is you could either wipe it in your nose or like in your mouth to get the saliva or mucus, and you can
Mhm.
send it back to them, and they can like actually like test a lot of different things. So they test for like what's that H one that's like everyone gets. They test for leukemia. They test for like any type of autism, cancer, or
Really? Huh.
yeah, but it's very broad. So it's not very like specific. In order
Right.
for you to get a specific test, you have to go to the doctor for it. But
Mhm.
these tests like online are just like super broad, and they can like tell you which ones are like going to happen more frequently than others. So they test for like I think over 20 different things. It's super cool.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't I guess I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I'm gonna be 44 this year, so I guess I mean, now that I'm halfway cooked, I guess. But honestly, I'm healthier than my adopted family, so I kind of use that comparison. Like I take really good care of myself. I run a lot and exercise, and I try to have balance in my life. And probably because my adopted family is so unhealthy, and there's some mental illness in that family too. Um, that I
So
think that I like again, like I have a hard time living in the past.
yeah, you're all good.
But now that you describe that, it kind of sounds like a good idea because of my children, of course. So I don't really know, but I haven't had any real like major medical problems,
Okay.
which is awesome for not knowing what what's in me. And I've never done drugs or taken alcohol or done any of that, so I don't even know. I think some of that addiction can be genetic too, but I haven't. I'm obviously I don't want to test it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would say that I try to take care of myself in that way too, because especially because I don't know what's in my genes. But no, it's food for thought. I might think about that.
For
But I
sure.
don't want to know. What if I'm like full of cancer? Like I want to know.
I mean, you get prepared for it, you know, just in case.
I know. I guess though, if you had relatives that were having problems, then you would know. So I guess people most of the
Yeah.
time. But yeah. So anyway, yeah,
It
that's
was
pretty
the
interesting.
one of my friends actually got was it he's not diagnosed, but his dad and his grandfather has Huntington's disease.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you know what that is,
Uh-huh.
but it's like a disorder that like destroys your brain after a while. You should
Mhm.
get like in your 40s or 50s,
Mhm.
and basically just your brain just withers away. And he found that out when he was like 20. He's one of my really good friends, but he's married.
Oh wow.
It was super hard for him to tell his wife about it.
Yeah.
But I think it was like his fiance we found out, and she's super positive about it. She said, "I'll still marry you even though you have Huntington's disease." It's actually
Yeah.
pretty scary sometimes, like things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty sad. But obviously, if you know about it, you could actually there's some studies that you could prevent, or you won't prevent it, but you could drag it longer. Like so, instead of having it at 40s or 50s, you could have it like 60s or 70s if you take care of your body right.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so preparation for those kind of things is really really good.
Yeah, that makes
A lot of
sense.
them.
And well, I often wonder it's the difference between my generation and yours. Like you guys see such positivity and things like that, where like my husband, for example, sees conspiracy in sharing my genes and blood with the government.
It could
So
happen,
I
but
don't think people your age have that fear, or am I right?
no, at least I don't. I mean, I'm down to send my information just in case anything happens to me, you know?
Yeah, see, or you want to be cloned someday. I mean, like,
Oh,
I
but
don't think that bothers you guys.
I've actually been reading about that kind of stuff because I'm studying microbiology.
Okay.
So I've been like studying a lot of things about cloning, and yeah, it's not it's what is it called? It's not it's illegal here to do cloning, but like different
Mhm.
countries like Japan, they do clone
Yeah.
pigs so they could grow them and test them. So it's like obviously positive things, but you know they're afraid of people, you know, doing negative things with it.
Oh, sure. Well, and it's illegal now, but I mean, a lot of things are legal now that I never thought would be legal. So
Yeah.
things can change for sure.
One of the cool things recently, they've been doing some gene therapy. So I don't know if it's legal though, but they could take your DNA, and if you have
Mm.
like Huntington's disease or leukemia in the future, they could like um go into your DNA and like change it a bit so that you won't have to have that.
Oh,
But
that's interesting. Well, don't they do that? Try to do that with babies? I don't
yeah, they do it. They try to do it at a younger age, so they try to fix it before it happens.
or
But some people think
before.
that's not ethical. So that's another problem.
Huh.
So I don't
See,
know.
well, and that's probably why I haven't really necessarily done the gene. It's just a whole different thinking process. Like I didn't grow up with that kind of information to be knowledgeable about that, like you guys
Yeah.
are. So maybe that's why I haven't done it. But I take a win for just doing the DNA ancestry thing. I thought that was huge.
All right. So what kind of advice do you have for parents adopting or children who have been adopted? So I
Oh,
guess any type of advice.
right. Well, I think I mentioned earlier that I mean, I do believe in adoption. But I think when your intent for adopting sometimes, I mean, and people talk about, um, well, I don't want to say people. I'll just be frank. Like I think white people sometimes have this savior concept, right? Like I'm going to go adopt kids from other countries and I'm going to save them from all the bad things in that country. When you're really taking them out of their culture. So I kind of more strongly believe in adopting within your culture.
For sure.
And so let's say you are an American in Texas and you want to adopt a child, like adopted an American child first. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look into that first before you go into other countries. Because I do think there's a lot of need within our own country, maybe for adoption. So there's one part, but then also is the race part that I brought up,
Yeah.
that kids in particular, and I know this from my personal experience as a child and raising my own children, you need to have those racial mirrors, people that reflect um, you, what you look like, or your traits. You need to have them. It's harder maybe to provide for an adopted kid. Say a white person adopts a black child.
Yeah.
Um, it's different being black in this country than it is being white. It's different being my color than it is being white. And if you're not that color, it's hard to teach them how to deal with certain situations or racism when you don't understand it yourself. So that would kind of be my advice to someone adopting. Do you really need to look into that and decide how you feel about race, how you feel about racism, how you're going to teach if you adopt a child of color, how are you going to provide those racial mirrors for them? I think it can be done. Um, if I were to adopt, I would try to adopt someone within my own kind of
Like
race,
close. Yeah.
which could probably be, I mean, Mexican slash Indian, Mayan Indian, all those things are represented in that country. So I would want to be that for someone else for sure. Although my culture is American, right?
Yeah. For sure.
So I couldn't teach them about that culture. So that's the other half besides race. Really consider your culture and the kind of culture you're going to share with the child that you're going to adopt. So that's for people adopting, and then the other half was to adoptees. Is that the other half of the
Um,
question?
what is it called? Parents adopt or children who have been adopted. So children already adopted. Where what kind of
Yeah.
advice for them?
So to adoptees. So a person that's has been adopted. Um, I would say that you have the right to tell your own story the way you want to tell it. Your parents should not be telling people your adoption story. You should have control over that. So if you want to share your story, like I'm sharing with you right now, that's my right. But if I didn't want to share, I can also say that's something I don't want to talk about.
For sure.
Because I mean, growing up, I had lots of encounters where obviously I was adopted, right? And then everybody wants to know, did you ever find your parents? Did you ever do this? And there are actually really personal questions. If I know beforehand that someone wants to talk about it, that's completely fine. But to be kind of bombarded with questions from someone you don't really know, it's
Hmm.
kind of rude. I mean, I would never ask, where were you conceived? Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask you that question. How did your parents conceive you and where? And did they tell you all about the experience? You
Yeah.
know?
Got a little weird.
And we don't go around saying, "Tell me about the day you were born, your birth story. I wanted the complete birth story about you, and how do you feel about your parents now? Do you ever think that, you don't like your mom and dad?" Like, we just don't go into those conversations normally.
Yeah.
So that would be one advice, especially for adoptees. Like, you need to be able to tell your story. You need to be able to have a relationship with your adoptive parents where you can say what you're doing and saying or sharing with other people is actually really hurting me. Can you stop? And that parent needs to be open to hearing that. um and also I think just, I have to be really honest with my siblings even now. Like, I still don't feel like I fit in with them, and so I try to remind them of that often, because they just assume that I feel like I belong,
Yeah.
so I think your whole life as an adopted child, you're going to have to share your feelings and how you feel, and your feelings are valid, and don't let people tell you that they're not. Um, I don't know if there's anything else to add to that, but as you can tell, I feel very strongly about that.
Right, you're totally fine.
Yeah,
But are you guys like? But do you guys have like family reunions or anything together, or are you guys
you
just kind of
know,
like solo?
not really. I don't know. With my family, um, I try to keep this. I try to be a good person. I try to stay in my mind. My family today doesn't communicate with me so much or is involved in my life. They don't come to visit me. I'm the one who has to make the effort to visit them. So I say to myself, like, your family doesn't visit you and doesn't reach out to you because they're not good at communication. It's not because you're adopted. So I have to tell myself that message consistently so I don't get my feelings hurt, or I don't get into this like deep hole of like, oh, my family doesn't want me,
Yeah,
because
for
I'm still sensitive. I mean, even after all these years, I think I'm very sensitive to belonging. Um, so I mean, I can call my siblings and talk to them, and because I choose not to be angry about how they don't visit me, I make that conscious choice to be a good person and just like take them for what they are. But in reality, they really aren't a big part of my life. They don't reach out to me very often, and I haven't even talked to my dad. I saw him last summer. My mom has passed away, but my dad, I haven't seen him since, I think it was July. I haven't spoken to him on the phone. He hasn't called me. I haven't talked to him since then. It's been that long.
that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And I
Yeah,
think too,
big difference.
considering my religion, where like families are forever, and family is the most important thing, that has been really a hard pill to swallow as an adopted child, because I've been taught one thing, and I practice one thing with my own children and my husband now. But actually, when I think about it, maybe that's why I do such a good job with my own children, because it's kind of failing with me as the child.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I'm just trying to stay positive and just think that that is a good learning experience for me. That's happening for a reason, for me to be a stronger person to my children, a better mother to my children. But I don't really get that much connection. For example, just kind of set up spring break to see my sisters, but they weren't gonna invite me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
So I go to Utah a lot on my own. I make that relationship work for me because I don't want to die and think that I didn't try hard enough.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That was deep. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I know. Hey, it'll be good for whatever project you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
But not to say, I mean, I'm grateful to be adopted, really. I mean, I'm really happy that I'm an American citizen for sure. I've had lots of privileges. I'm very educated. I'm good at what the job that I have. I have a very stable life. I make enough money, I support my kids, and so all those good things have come out of it. But adoption isn't all roses. You know, there are some bad sides to it too. So
Mhm.
um, I just want people to be educated and not assume so much anymore.
For sure. Do
Yeah,
you seem like, I mean, it seems like you will wanna be more close to your family in the future,
I
so that's pretty
do.
pretty
Yeah,
positive.
I am open to that. I do desire that, but I also realize that's part of my personality to connect with people. That's one of the strengths that I have, to be able to see past people's, you know, bad side, I guess, and
Mhm.
connect with them. So that might be just a gift that I have, not necessarily like I don't think all adopted people are this way. In fact, I know they're not. I've been in some adoption forums on Facebook. It's pretty bad out there. You
Wow.
know, a lot
That's
of
cool.
adopted children are abused in this country by their adopted families, not told that they're adopted, lied to, and it ruins their lives. So I
Dang.
think it was helpful to read those kinds of stories to feel more blessed about my situation. But um, I don't know if everyone should like dive into that. It's kind of negative. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
pretty negative, and I'm choosing to be positive. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
for sure. Alright. Well, that's all I have. All
Oh,
the questions I
sweet.
have. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really fun to talk to you. Like, it was
Yeah, no, it's nice to meet you. So how do you know my son?
we how do I know your son? Oh, we played the same game together.
Oh, okay.
I met him through Facebook, so,
Okay,
yeah, we
awesome.
hang out a couple times this semester, so it was way fun.
Oh, that's cool. So where are you living?
I'm living, like, in Idaho, or where do I live?
Are
At
you are you going to school with David or are you
Yeah, yeah, I'm going to school with
okay.
David.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
I assumed that. I didn't ask that, so I was just clarifying, but
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, I have
yeah.
one more semester and I am graduated, so
Oh, you're kidding, really?
yeah, it's actually insane. I don't
That
know
is
what to do. I mean, I have, like, choices, but I don't know what exactly I wanna do, so
right. Well, my what I
yeah.
always tell my kids and everybody that ask me, because since you're asking, right?
Yeah. Why not?
Don't do a job you really love because you're gonna have to do it for a really long time and you have to be passionate about it. So
Yeah.
I know we all have to worry about money, but doing something you love is more important.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This major is really fascinating. Um, yeah, that's why I know about gene therapy and, like, cloning and stuff, because of
Yeah,
that reason, so it's way cool. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's exciting.
do you have anything else you wanna add, or
No, I mean, if you need some clarification, just feel free to text me or whatever, and say hi to my son when you see him. I miss him.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Thanks for the good questions, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yep. Alright, thank you. Alright, well, I guess if my project wants me to ask more questions, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay.
Alright,
All right. See ya. Bye.
yeah.